Today we're going to cook some underblade steaks that I've cut up from the chuck roll about a month and a half ago. And I took this out of the freezer last night and it seems like it's defrosted, so this is about 24 hours. And we'll see how it held up in the freezer for a month and a half. I tried to wrap them tightly. I had used a Ziploc bag and then wrapped them in foil. Then in the foil themselves, I wrapped them individually in saran wrap or cling film. So each steak I rolled into one, and they're separated by a layer of cling film. So as with all things that are frozen, you expect a little moisture to come out. So there's one, two, and the third one is three. This one was in the center and it's still a little frozen. And usually I don't rinse my steak, but I think I will give it a quick rinse to wash off any of the freezer juices and help thaw this out, and then I'll towel dry them completely. Alright, I gave these steaks a quick 10-second rinse under cold water, and then I'm trying to thoroughly dry them. So here's what they look like. Just get off any excess moisture. One thing when you freeze is that sometimes meat and other products will put off moisture because the freezing kind of breaks the cell walls, and then you end up losing some moisture. So we'll see how this cooks up. So one of the first things I like to do with beef is to give it a little salt on top and allow it to come up to room temperature, as always, as you've seen me done in previous videos. Salt generously and press it in. Same thing for the other side. Salt, press it in. And again, when I salt foods, I kind of eyeball it and make sure, you know, this is how I think it needs, how much salt it needs. So here we go. So just a reminder, this is from the lower portion of the chuck roll, the underbelly. It has a nice marbling of fat. You could see the fiber muscles running this way. I think this is a close approximation to what some would say is a short rib, so essentially a boneless short rib. And I'm assuming that this will be a pretty tender cut of beef where I could eat it like a steak. Alright, for cooking the steak, I'm going to use a cast iron skillet. I have the heat set on medium high, so sort of 8 out of 10 right now. And I'm preheating the skillet, and then I'll add some high temperature oil. I'm using avocado oil that has a high smoke point versus I prefer avocado oil because it's minimally processed versus like canola or soy oil. So less processing, the better. So I spread a coating of oil on the bottom. And with all things, when I fry, I wait for the oil to shimmer and just about to smoke. And then when you see a few wisps of smoke, that's when you know it's hot enough. You could see it's the rings of the heating coils are heating the oil. Let me get this ready. You can see it's starting to shimmer a little. Let it get a little warmer. And also I'm going to use butter to finish off the steaks. So Here are the steaks going down. And here's a trick I've been liking doing is just pressing the steaks lightly like I did with the salmon I've done earlier. Just to ensure that the entire surface is in contact so it gets a nice browning. Lifting the oil a little. And I'm gonna flip every minute. Some people say don't just put the steak in and don't touch it. But I like to have the steak evenly cooked where you don't have one side that's more cooked than the other. So that was the 1 minute timer. Flip it over. Getting some nice browning there. Flip this one over. This one's actually a little thicker, so I might cook this one longer. And usually when I flip it over, I sort of give one side the butter treatment. Okay, it's been another minute, so I'll flip it again. I'll rotate it. Add the rest of the butter in. Also, you could baste the steak in the butter. That's been another minute, so I'll flip them over again. Getting some nice color. When you cook steaks long enough, you could tell by the feeling how done it is. These are still pretty soft, so I'm thinking these are rare to just barely medium. I think this one's done. I'll let them rest. I think this one's done also. Turn off the heat. And I'll dot with butter and let it rest. Okay, I just dotted with butter. I'll just let the butter soak in and let the steak rest a few minutes before I cut into them, since these are still scorching hot out of the cast iron pan. But it seems like butter and beef are always a nice combination. And I'll add pepper now. Typically I don't add pepper before when I fry because pepper tends to burn. Alright, here's the rested beef. I'm gonna cut it up and serve. For this I'll cut it up into strips. I'll start with the longer one. Use my hands. Looks like it's a good medium doneness. Still a little pink, but it's not red or purple as in medium rare, but it has. I'm trying to take advantage of knowing which way the grain is. Hopefully I could cut it against the grain to get tender slices. And put it back in the juices. Here's the next one. So the grain is running this way, so I'll cut against the grain. Again, this one is probably a little more, just a shade under medium, and you could tell by when you press it, it's a little, it's not firm, but it's not mushy soft. It's sort of in the middle. And the objective is to slice kind of thin. This is the thinner end. As you could tell, it's a little more well. I guess when I was cutting these steaks, I did not cut them evenly in terms of thickness. And here's the, this is thicker, definitely. You could, this is probably on the medium rare side because it's really soft. And some people say you could tell how this would be rare. Then when you put your finger, this is medium rare. This is more medium and well done. Or some people do this for well done. Make a fist. So let's take a look at this thicker piece of meat. Yeah, here it's definitely medium rare, because this is still what they call blue. So this one I might cook a little longer, since I tend to like medium or better. And I expected that, because this is definitely a thicker piece of meat, and I should have cooked this one longer. All right, here's my plated dish. Today I'm having the beef underblade with broccoli, cauliflower salad full of bacon, tomatoes, and cheese, and a little onion. So this is the medium done portion, and I cut a couple of slices of the medium rare, and the more I look at it, I'm thinking it's more on the rare side. You can see it's very blue, but I'll give it a shot. First, I'll try the medium, which is my comfort zone. This has been in the freezer for a month and a half, and I defrosted. This is a beef chuck roll that I cut up. Nice beefy flavor. I did finish with a little salt and pepper. Tenderness, I'd say it's more, it's not as tender as a ribeye or a New York strip, but I'm thinking it's definitely more tender than a sirloin steak. So it's definitely one of the more tender cuts of meat. All right, I'll try this rare, medium rare blue piece. Has good flavor. It's still pretty, it's a little more tender, I guess, because it's not as cooked dry, or I don't want to say dry, but not as cooked as much as this medium. But to be honest, this is not my thing, but it's not bad.